to the Social Justice Podcast. This week we will be discussing cyberbullying. Normally, we have a view of cyberbullying as the big bad kid picking on the smaller kid in a playground. However, cyberbullying is much more mentally tolling for the victim than traditional physical and verbal bullying. So what is cyberbullying? Cyberbullying is a form of bullying or harassment that is controlled by various means of electronics using the internet, especially social media. Cyberbullying is arguably much more dangerous and threatening than physical bullying because it can be anonymous. Authority figures struggle to identify who the bully is because of this reason. Most of the time, it is high school students and teenagers who are widely affected by the cyberbullying phenomenon due to their attachment to social media and cell phones in general. Cyberbullying is incredibly toxic and can be extremely detrimental to one's mental health, especially a teenager whose brains are just developing and are attempting to fit in. According to the Megan Marrier Foundation, students who experience bullying or cyberbullying are nearly twice as times more likely to attempt suicide. According to enoughisenough.org, researchers have found that there is a connection between intensive social media use and mental health. And 59% of United States teens have been bullied or harassed online, and over 90% believe it is a major problem for people their age.
So, what are we as a society doing about this major issue called cyberbullying? Today, we are having a special guest talk to you about cyberbullying. Welcome professional school counselor from Cathedral High School, Mrs. Hemer.
So, have there been any cases of cyberbullying at Cathedral? If so, how common is it?
Like this year, while I've been here.
Just
what do you mean, like?
Just while you've been here, and you don't have to go into specifics, obviously, with confidentiality purposes.
I have. Usually, it seems like this cyberbullying situations that I've seen, thinking really like online and not app-based, I would say usually contain kids from other schools. And I think it's more common than is really reported to us. The other sort of, I guess, cyberbullying would be like Snapchat. I think that definitely happens more often. Like throwing shade on Snapchat happens way more often than we ever hear about it. I know it's happening. I would say the reports here at Cathedral aren't really happening as often, which is unfortunate because I think that there's this idea that you can't report that stuff because then it'll just make it worse.
Okay. So, what are effective prevention responses that you're doing at Cathedral if this happens?
Well, I'm pretty sure isn't like Snapchat banned, technically, or used to be. Instagram used to be, but now it's not anymore.
With the Wi-Fi?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that is.
So like over Wi-Fi, I think like those are bans that like this school have made. I think also like just something within this counseling department, like we make sure that like we're asking the person that's reporting it. Like sometimes it's just nice to talk about it and just like have support through it. And sometimes we really like try to encourage you guys as students to like actually report it to discipline or like to parents or get other people involved. But we let that be a student decision, unless obviously it's like really like a harm, like a serious harm to yourself, and we usually like let your own parents know. But that I think is like kind of the parameters. It's kind of the wild, wild west because we've never really dealt with anything like this before. Like it just keeps expanding. Like you guys have a new app or a new website or a new this, and then there's black web. I don't even understand it. I'm 29 and I have no idea what you guys are talking about. So like I just think it's kind of the wild, wild west, but like we're doing what we can. But unless students share, like it's kind of impossible for us to know.
Yeah. So, do you know what cyberbullying looks like? And what I mean by that is, what is the bullying saying and doing to the victim online?
I think a lot of the time it's like what we just talked about with Snapchat. It's just like throwing shade. Like it's not specifically talking about anyone, but it is.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the times it can be in like comments, even on other people's photos, like just like the underlying like about someone else, like that can be really hurtful. And then even like there can be like the direct messages that are like kind of they're more confrontational, obviously, and they're just like flat out being rude, mean, whatever. But I think the things that we don't really think about with cyberbullying is that like the comments, the likes, the like reactions that you can have. You guys don't use Facebook anymore, but like you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Just the different, and it's not even necessarily on your photos or on your like stories. It could be on other people's stories, so it creates this like paranoia and like anxiety to like constantly be checking all of it because somebody could be talking about you like in public and you may not know. Like that's just really tough, and I think that's like the issue with cyberbullying is that it creates this paranoia and this anxiety all the time.
Yeah. So you said Snapchat was like a common social media platform for cyberbullying. What other ones have you seen at Cathedral?
I would say the other big one would be Instagram. Those are the two that I've seen. I haven't heard of any, granted, please keep in mind, I don't understand TikTok, but I haven't heard of anything like negative on TikTok, but those seem to be the three social medias that you guys use, like, period. I don't know if you use Visco or if that's just like a thing. Granted, don't understand that either, but like those seem to be the three platforms that are widely used by everyone.
Okay. If a parent has a child and they suspect they're being cyberbullied, what should they do?
I guess the first question I would have is like, what age are they, and like why do you suspect that? Like, I mean, if it's an older kid, I would sit down with them, and like if it's a junior, senior, I would sit down with them and try to talk to them about it and be like, you know, and if they're not really that open about it, I would probably say, you know, you kind of have to put an ultimatum, like I'm going to check your social media, or maybe we should share those things or whatever. If it's a freshman or sophomore, I would encourage the parent to not be afraid to take more control. Just the maturity level is different, and the experience is different. So I feel like even with like an app like Time Hop, right? And I'm 29 years old, and I have everything from like we had Facebook that was only for students, like that started in high school. So let's say all the way back, like about 12 to 13 years worth of social media posts from my own that I'm connecting, that's bringing forward. There are some posts still from like 9 to 10 years ago that I'm like, oh, that was so nerdy, you know? And I was a senior in high school, so I can only imagine like the things that I would have been saying had I had that option as a freshman or sophomore. Or even like younger than that. So I would encourage parents, if it is like a middle schooler to like freshman year to sophomore year, like have those passwords. Like the kids can't have accounts if you don't have access to like be able to check that kind of stuff. And then just like open up the dialogue and conversation about like if you are being bullied, like let's talk about it.
Thank you, Mrs. Hemer, for giving us some insight on cyberbullying. However, it is not all bad news. Cyberbullying can be prevented by encouraging teenagers to speak out to a trusted adult if they are bullied or witnessing bullying. When you see something, report it. On top of that, cyberbullying prevention initiatives include federal programs such as StopBullying.gov and nonprofit organizations such as Cyber Smile Foundation. Welcome Delana and Jaidi, who are interviewing Dr. Bridges, the president of Cathedral High School.
Do you know why the cyberbully attacks a victim normally, or like an idea of like why, like a reasoning to it?
A reason for cyberbullying?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we call them keyboard heroes, like the courage behind a screen. You know, you have the courage to say things on that you never have the courage to say face to face. Like if I were to say, hey Jady, you really stink at golf. You're not very good. You should stop playing. You know, I would never say that face to face to her. Pretend that never happened.
Yeah.
But you might want to, like her and Danny are comparing their golf scores, and then Danny says, gosh, you're not very good, and Danny says, you're not very good either. I think it's easier to do it that way. But to have to look at someone's face and tell them that, it's harder to do. It takes more courage. It's also sometimes mean, and I don't think people like to be mean face to face. It's so easy to be. I just think you can hide behind the keyboard, and I think that's one of the reasons for it. People wouldn't do those things normally face to face. By the way, you don't stink at golf.
Thanks.
You improved a lot throughout the
Yeah.
season.
Okay, here you go. That's just that one.
How can we, as teenage social media users, prevent cyberbullying from happening?
Yeah, it's like a tricky question.
No, I think, well, okay, so if you two leave this office magically and say, I'm going to have the competence to see and the courage to act like Miss Heron said in the morning prayer, and anytime I see anything on social media that's not nice, I'm going to, boom, you don't do that. That's against the 10 Commandments. It's against what our school teaches. Jesus is not happy right now. That's not how God made you. Knock it off. You know what's going to happen if you put that out there. You'll probably get clobbered too for being a Jesus freak or a religious freak or just a plain old freak, you know. But I do think if you did it and then you did it and then your friends did it, maybe people saw that other people were taking a strong stand, then it might be easier to do. I know it's easier just to say nothing, you know.
Yeah.
But I saw something once that if a good man sees evil and does nothing, then he's maybe not a good man or a woman. It's like the Good Samaritan, you know, you see someone suffering, you just decide to walk by. Well, you didn't do anything wrong, right? But you didn't do anything right either. You had a chance right there to do something. So if you see something cyberbullying that's bad, have some backbone and call them out. I think if more people did that, I don't know, it could just cause a cyber war, but I think it also could help people realize that they're doing something wrong. That's my thought. I know it's not a big chance of that, but it does. I mean, these things have been really difficult for schools, and I've been in schools as a worker since the internet started. That makes me sound old. I was working in Brazil in 1996 when I remember they said, okay guys, we're going to put grades on the computer now, and teachers were freaking out a little bit. But then they started entering instead of having the old-fashioned books where you'd write the grades, and it was online. So it just was weird and so different. The internet just changed so much about everything. And so you guys are probably 17, 18?
Yeah, she's 18, I'm 17.
So you were probably like 90, 2000, 2001. So you were born with like internet, cell phones were kind of getting big.
Yeah.
So this is all you kind of know. So you hear stories like I'm talking, you think, oh man, he is old. It's true though. It was just they were still bullying, like real bullying. At least you could deal with it because it was face to face.
To help prevent cyberbullying, you need to know the signs of someone that could be getting bullied. According to stopbullying.gov, signs that a child is being cyberbullied are noticeable increases or decreases in device use, including texting, emotional responses to what is happening on their device, hiding their screen or device when others are near, and avoiding discussion about what they're doing on their device. Social media accounts are shut down or new ones appear. Avoiding social situations, even those that were enjoyed in the past, becoming withdrawn or depressed, or they lose interest in people and activities. Thank you for tuning in to this week's Social Justice podcast over cyberbullying. What will you do to end cyberbullying in your community?